not easy being green, or so sang Kermit the Frog in a videotape my children enjoyed when they were little. And here at our parish, I would say it's not easy being an industrial gray door. Nope, that door should be red. And I'd like to reassure everyone that I've heard that that is the planned eventual color of the door. Why red? Because it's traditional, it's comfortable, and we're used to it. And change is hard. It doesn't matter if it's a change we choose or a change we've long anticipated, like a graduation or a wedding or the arrival of a new baby, or if it is something unplanned, unexpected, and frightening, like a difficult medical diagnosis or the loss of a friend or loved one. Whether it is ultimately something relatively inconsequential or something really life-altering, all change has the potential to be unsettling and involve a wide array of emotions and responses. One typical response to change is to try and hold on for all we're worth to the old. In our Old Testament reading, the prophet Elijah confronts the Israelites about making a choice. Last week, Deacon Joan talked about the challenges we face making the choice between the secular world and the world of Christ, and the challenge of paying attention to the Holy Spirit. Here we have the Israelites essentially seeming to try to cover all their bases by not truly committing to the God of Abraham, but also listening to the prophets of Baal. Elijah calls them on it. They can't sit on the fence forever. But they still find it hard to make a choice. It takes a pretty obvious sign from God to convince them to listen to Elijah. Don't we all wish that change sometimes came with a clear sign that our choice was the right one? It might not make the change any easier, but it saves from second guessing. The Israelites were free to choose to follow God, whether to listen to the prophet Elijah or not. And we enjoy that same freedom, that same choice and responsibility. This is a long holiday weekend for us, ending with Memorial Day on Monday. Memorial Day marks many changes. Here in our area, the kids are out of school now and the pools open up. Most of us are free to enjoy the long weekend with friends and family. But the true purpose of Memorial Day is far more significant and reflects much deeper changes. Just as we as a country value our freedoms, we remember on Monday those who have died serving our country and defending those freedoms. Each memorial reflects change. A family changed by the experience of a tremendous loss, a life perhaps cut short, a missing piece to some family's puzzle. To return to the use of colors and symbols, it's a weekend filled with red, white, and blue, and little flags in a row in cemeteries. It is a reminder that we are connected by traditions and by the challenges our country has faced and the individual and communal changes that have resulted. And perhaps that is why change, like an industrial gray door, unhinges us. Because change can at times make us lose that sense of connection that tradition gives us. The new door is a sign, but not necessarily one we want to see. It's a sign of change. Even once it's painted red, it will not be the old door. Once red, it will still be the new door, with a colorful connection to tradition, but still new. There is no going back. And of course, we know there is no going back. Time only moves forward, and we are moved along with it, whether we're ready or not. Our traditions and faith can make that forward movement, those changes, a little easier. It's not just the red doors, which according to an explanation in a handy little book called the Episcopal Handbook, are a sign of the church as a sanctuary and refuge. Our altar linen colors are also full of symbolism and meaning. We've had white for a while with the church season of Easter, and then red for Pentecost. And now we are into green, Green represents ordinary time, and it's a big chunk of the liturgical calendar of the church year. Really, ordinary is a word we might all use to describe our day-to-day lives. The Episcopal Handbook describes it as a season where we study the teachings and miracles of Jesus. Jesus is there in the ordinary, as well as the extraordinary. Because even as we move forward each year through the cycle of seasons in the church, in nature, and in our lives, the message of the Bible moves with us. Just as the recipients of Paul's letter faced the challenges of staying true to the gospel Paul had shared with them and not allowing themselves to be led astray, we too must recognize this in our own lives. Paul writes, "Am I now seeking human approval or God's approval?" This is a good question to ask ourselves as we attempt to balance our lives, to live as disciples of Christ in the world. What moves us, and what is our response? We end our readings today with a contrast. From the wishy-washy faith that Elijah confronted, we move to the extraordinary faith of the centurion in the gospel. This man, a Gentile, seeks healing for his slave. He doesn't expect Jesus to come into his home, to darken his door, so to speak, because he has faith in Jesus. He has heard of Jesus' power, and he trusts in his authority, without even his physical presence. It is a tremendous expression of faith, and Jesus is amazed. So we might ask ourselves, where are we? Are we somewhere between the Old Testament example and the gospel example? Seeking signs and worldly approval, or acting in complete faith? Like the seasons moving on, our goal is to continually grow in our discipleship toward the example of deep faith given by the centurion, to move toward an ability to boldly share our faith as the Apostle Paul did, knowing that we too are sent out into the world to love and serve the Lord. Which brings us back to our industrial grade door. It is not yet traditional red. It will always have a glass panel where once there was wood. It feels a bit utilitarian, practical, and ordinary in a way. But it serves its purpose. It lets the light through. It opens to let us in to gather in worship and in community. And most importantly, it opens like any ordinary door, not only to let us in, but also to let us out. Because the church is greater than the style or colors of its doors. The church is all of us, the people who come in and out the doors. In a world of ordinary time, let's go out the doors and seek to serve in an extraordinary way, sharing our faith and the love of Christ. Amen.